What's going on, guys? Tool Cruise here with another video. It feels like it's been a really long time since I've sat in this room back in our home here in Japan and filmed a video like this where I'm just sort of talking to the camera. And today I'm going to be talking about some life updates, more specifically relating to my job situation here in Japan. So those of you who've been fans of this channel for a while know that I'm an English teacher. I don't think I've really talked on this channel before about the specifics of my job here teaching English in Japan. There's lots of different jobs. There's a kaiwa, you can work at a public school, you can work at a university, you can work at a cram school, you can be an assistant English teacher. There's all these different types of English teaching jobs or levels that exist here in Japan. And today the mystery will finally be revealed as I'm ending my English teaching career here in Japan and moving on to some exciting new news. I've been teasing about my new job here in Japan lately on this channel in the last few videos, and I'm sorry to make you guys wait for so long, but one of the big reasons why I wasn't announcing my job here on the channel until now was just because there was a lot of paperwork and application processes that I wanted to make sure were finished before I announced everything, just in case something went wrong. But now I'm happily finished with pretty much all of the essential parts of my paperwork and stuff that I needed to get done. I've got my new visa secured and we're good to go. So if you're interested in my new job, make sure to stick around until the end part of this video where I'll be going into that. First, I want to talk about what I've been doing up until now. So I moved to Japan here about 4 years ago now. I came in 2015 and I first moved here with a contract with a university to work as an English teacher. Before coming to Japan this time around, I was working at a university in the US, which is where I'm from. So I'm actually from Michigan, as many of you guys know, and I did my graduate studies in the St. Louis area. So after graduating university there, and they offered me a part-time lecturer position for teaching some of the web development courses, which was what my major was in. And I did that for a year teaching at the university in the US before I decided to jump over to Japan and start working as an English teacher at a university here. And I was really excited for this opportunity to be able to go to another country, work in that country, experience just so many new things. When I accepted the job offer for the university position here, there were a couple strings attached that some of them were really good and some of them were a little bit more negative. Some of the good things, for example, was I didn't have to pay rent. So when I was living in the university accommodation, I didn't have to pay any money for rent. So I was able to put pretty much all the money that I was making into my savings and save up extra money that way. This type of system is pretty common for a lot of the teaching situations here in Japan and other Asian countries, especially for the ones that vet out their application process a year in advance. So other places that pretty much just are desperate to hire and get someone to fill a spot really quickly, they usually have less benefits, but programs like the JET program, which is one of the more popular teaching programs here in Japan, or university positions, they recruit pretty much a year in advance, and because the application process is done so far in advance, they usually offer some more perks and benefits. So that was great. I was able to save up a lot of money in the old department. If you check out some of the older videos on the channel, you'll see just how small that place was. But it was perfect. It was fine for single living, and when you're brought over by one of these companies, they tend to take care of you really well, especially for native English speakers, for people like me who come from America. It's not quite the same for people like my wife who come from Southeast Asia, Vietnam. The treatment for both of us and our experience in coming to Japan is quite different. We'll talk about that more maybe in another video sometime, but that's another story for another time. One of the more negative things with this job offer was there was a contract limit of 4 years. So it was actually an annual contract, which was renewable up to 3 times for a total of 4 years. So basically, if you do something really bad or you break the law or something, they can cancel your contract and not renew. But usually they let you renew for the full amount of your contract unless, yeah, something really bad happens. And that's what happened with me. So like I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the video, I just finished up my 4th year here, which means I'm finishing my 4-year contract with my original position. So the last few months I was really worried about what I was going to do. Am I going to stay in Japan? A lot of things have changed from when I first moved here. So when I first moved here, I didn't really think too much of it. I thought like, well, I'll try and find another job after this. If I decide to go back to America, I'll go back to America. If I decide I want to move to another country like Taiwan, I can do that. I'm free. But as you guys know, who follow the channel, I'm now married and we are living our life here together in Japan. And so when we discussed this together, we decided that for our future, what's best for us in our future, we want to try and work in Japan because that's where we met. That's the language that we speak together. And of course, we both enjoy living in Japan. So that was our goal moving forward. And for me, there was the option of I could try and find a new university job, which would then sort of follow the same path of I'd need to find another job in 4 years. It's very hard to find university jobs that don't have a contract limit of about 4 or 5 years. In the past, it was a lot easier to get tenured positions, but now it's very, very difficult unless you have a doctorate. And even if you have a doctorate degree, it's really hard to find those tenured positions as more and more educated people are coming to Japan, and more people who have lived in Japan a long time are deciding to get higher education and get those qualifications. So it's starting to get a bit saturated there. So that was one big reason why I was hesitant to continue my career in academia, working in universities. I've always been really passionate about studying, learning. I've made a few videos on this channel about studying Japanese, and education is something I'm really passionate about and I really enjoy learning myself. And I've always sort of imagined myself working in education, but I've also dabbled in a few other things like programming and website design and stuff like that. So switching careers was kind of something that I was considering right from the start. I was working on improving my Japanese. To get a job here in Japan, outside of English teaching, you really need to sell yourself. You need to show that you can speak Japanese. You need to certify this with the Japanese language proficiency test, the JLPT. You need to have good connections. The work culture is very different in Japanese companies, and there's all these other things that you need to consider when making that switch. Whereas if you stay in English teaching, which a lot of people do for a long time, and there's a lot of good points and bad points of English teaching here in Japan. For example, one of the greatest things about English teaching is you work with students who are happy to be with you for the most part. This depends on where you're working, but for me, I was teaching at a language university, so all of my students were excited to study English. That was what they were passionate about, so every day I was working with students who were happy to work with me. If you're working one of the late night schools, you might have a lot of students that are sort of forced to go there with their parents, so working with those students who don't really have the same energy might be a bit more stressful. So it depends on what type of classroom setting you have, what type of students you have. But for the most part, English teaching in Japan is really a nice low stress job where you get to work with some wonderful students. There's no shortage of work as well, so you're always able to find new English teaching positions, even if it's not a university job like you maybe want, but there's always something available. There's always people looking for English teachers. But in addition to that, there's also a high supply of English teachers. Especially recently, more and more people are coming to Japan to teach English, and because of that, the salaries for English teachers in Japan aren't really rising. They sort of stay stagnant. So even if you're an English teacher in Japan for 5 or 10 years or so, it doesn't really matter if you have that experience in most situations, because many schools will just hire some new person who comes to Japan who's excited about the experience. So yeah, there's really no incentive for companies to hold on to employees for a long period of time, because they just need to pay higher salaries, more and more benefits. And that's one of the reasons why the universities do the 4-year, 5-year contract limit. I'm not saying that's entirely a bad thing though, because a lot of people come here because they only want to teach for a 1 year or maybe 4 years, and they're happy with that. They're here for a short amount of time, they get that cultural experience, and then they go back to their home country. I've found in my time here that a majority of people I meet tend to leave after about 2 to 3 years or so. They get their fill of living abroad, and then they decide that they're going to go back home for whatever reason, whether it's going to be visiting family, or they decide they want to go to somewhere else. So for some people, this program works really well. It works really well for the teachers, and it works really well for the staff. For the people who want to live here long term and raise a family, there's a lot of difficulties if you want to stay in the English teaching field. One solution to get around this though is to make your own English school, which is a bit difficult for me because I'm not a Japanese citizen, and I'm not married to a Japanese citizen. Most people who start their own English school here in Japan are married to a Japanese citizen, so they have that sort of I guess, into the system. So it always helps, no matter what you're doing in Japan. If you want to rent an apartment, you need a Japanese guarantor. If you want to do something with a visa, you need to have a Japanese sponsor. And if you want to buy a house and get a loan, you have to have a Japanese sponsor. So it really helps a lot to be married to a Japanese person. But as you guys know, my wife's Vietnamese, and she's a dependent on my work visa right now. So we really needed to figure out something that would work to allow us both to stay here long term, to be able to support us living here long term. Also, one of the things I didn't like about teaching English in Japan was that I wasn't really able to improve my Japanese language skills. When I first moved here, my Japanese language skills were actually pretty decent because I had a lot of Japanese friends, exchange students who were studying at the university that I worked at before, and we would talk every day in Japanese. So before coming to Japan, I was speaking Japanese every day, but then when I moved to Japan, I started speaking English every day. My work was English every day with the students, of course, and my colleagues are all from different other English-speaking countries throughout the world, and of course, so every day, speaking English after work. You maybe go to a restaurant, you go to the grocery store, you don't really have conversations with anyone. So I was speaking less and less Japanese every day. And if you move to a new country, like Japan, it really helps to learn the language and have a really solid command of speaking the language for whatever situation that you run into. For example, I just recently went through getting my driver's license here in Japan. If I didn't speak Japanese, that would have been a nightmare. But thankfully, I do speak Japanese, and I was really kind of getting disappointed in myself that my Japanese was getting a little bit stagnant and actually was decreasing in level from my first few years here. That's when I started to think about one of the best solutions to move forward was to get a job at a regular Japanese company. And by doing that, I would be able to speak Japanese every day. My Japanese would hopefully improve so that whatever situation I go into, if I'm applying for a loan with a bank, if I'm trying to eventually buy a house, if, for example, I'm hospitalized or something, whatever situation comes up, if I'm able, the more Japanese I'm able to speak, the better a position I am to protect myself and my family. So when I considered the long-term perspective of me living in Japan, what was the best route? Working in a Japanese company where there's no contract term limit on my position, where I can get regular raises, where I can actually speak the language of the country and improve my ability with that, and also just sort of challenge myself by doing something new. It just seemed to be the right route to do. So I'm touching on a lot of different points in this video. Maybe I'll go into more detail in another video, but I want to try and stay on track. So going back to the main topic of today, my new job. I gave a big hint a while back ago in one of our videos mentioning that it was within the cycling industry here in Japan, and a bunch of people guessed in the comments. A couple people were correct, and I think there were a lot of hints, a lot of big hints along the way, but the correct answer is BMC. For those of you who don't know, BMC is a performance bicycle company based out of Switzerland. If you're an anime fan, you've watched Yomushi Pedal, you'll know that Sakamichi-kun's new bike is a BMC. So you might be saying, wait a minute, Cruz, this is a Swiss company, not a Japanese company. So let me clarify this a little bit. The company that I'm working for is actually a bicycle distributor here in Japan, and they're the sole distributor for BMC bikes in Japan. So I won't be working directly for BMC, but I will be working directly with BMC, if that makes sense. So part of my job responsibilities will be helping to manage and promote the BMC brand in Japan, which is really, really exciting and really, really different than what I've been doing up until now. You guys may remember BMC Zach, who's appeared in a couple older videos on this channel, and basically he's moved on to a new position at a different bicycle company. And I was talking to him about how I was searching for a new job in Japan, and specifically about the cycling industry, and I asked him if he knew of any openings, and it just happened to work out really well that they were looking for a replacement to fill in there. They needed someone who was passionate about cycling, able to speak English and Japanese, and good with media. So hey, that's what I do. And decided to take on the challenge and take the plunge and join this full Japanese company. So I'll be starting with this company full-time in April, but I've already been starting my training. There's a lot of work that's involved in this company. I'm not only working with BMC, but I'll also be working with a lot of other brands that we import and distribute throughout Japan. And I'll go over some of those other brands in later videos. So again, this is a full Japanese company, so completely different than what I'm used to in the past, where I was a full international English environment, and now I'm the only native English speaker in the entire office, which is a little bit intimidating, but also it's a really exciting challenge because it really is going to push me to get to the next level with my Japanese. I've already attended a couple different events where we've had some representatives of other companies come to visit Japan, and I have to work as the translator and interpreter for that person. I've never had to really do this kind of job before, and it was really intimidating at first to do it. There's a lot of pressure because you don't want to make any mistakes. You want to make sure that you're translating everything accurately. But yeah, it's all really exciting. It's all really fresh. It's all really new. The other really great thing about this job is I'm going to be able to travel all around Japan, go to all these different events, for all these different races, all these different cycling conventions, and just be able to travel around to see different parts of the country that I haven't been able to see before. And of course, I'm going to bring my camera along and show you guys those experiences. You may be putting two and two together now. This is one of the reasons I had to get my driver's license, so I'll be driving around the BMC van around Japan. I'll show you guys that in a later video. And yeah, I'm just really, really excited. We're going to be going all over the place this year, and there's going to be so many good videos to come. Unfortunately, I've been really busy lately, just trying to get my head around this new schedule, adapting to the new work environment, their whole way of doing things, all of my responsibilities, and it might take a little bit longer for things to sort of settle down and for me to adapt to this new position to where I can pump out more and more videos. But I am gonna try and get out at least one video a week. That's my goal. So apologize if I can't get anything more, but I'll make sure to film any interesting videos whenever I have any chances, and I'll get the video out as soon as I can. But speaking of events that I'll be going to, I'm actually going to a big event next week. It's one of the bigger events in the cycling world. Can you guess it? The Taipei Show. So I'll be going to Taiwan, and unfortunately Tung Chun's not going to be able to come because this is a work trip. So I'll be going with the company president, and we'll be doing a lot of different meetings in the Taipei Show as well. But when I have some free time, I'm planning to film some videos and show you guys around some of the show. So if there's anything specific that you'd like me to show you guys at the Taipei Show, or any food that you'd like me to eat this time around in the visit to Taiwan. If you haven't checked out our older Taiwan video series, go check it out. We had a lot of fun in our last trip there last year. I love Taiwan, I love the food, I love the cycling culture, I can't wait to go back. In addition to the Taipei Show, I think with my work I'll be going to Taiwan at least once or maybe twice a year. We also have the connection there, the BMC factories are in Taiwan, so the engineering team, the whole main headquarters is in Switzerland, and they have actually what's called the Intech Lab, so they're actually able to design and create brand new bikes, like new test bikes, right in the facility in Switzerland itself. But once they have all the details and everything finalized, they have the factories over in Taiwan building the frames. So yeah, there might be some exciting opportunities in the future to make some exciting new videos. Of course, I'll be making all the new lineup videos, so detailed videos of each new BMC bike. And this sort of leads me to a kind of conflict of interest on this channel, and I'm going to try my best to stay as least biased as possible. So even though my job, I'll be working for BMC in Japan, I want to keep this channel sort of connected in ways because I want to be able to show you guys what I'm doing with my work. I want to show you guys exciting new products that I'm working with. Of course, that's going to help with promoting the products that I work with, but at the same time, I also want to promote other products that aren't related to my work. So I want this channel to be kind of neutral, where I can introduce what I'm doing with my work, but I can also introduce maybe other rival companies or other things that I think are exciting in the cycling world. So yeah, if some other bike company makes an awesome new bike and I think it's interesting and I want to talk about it on the channel, I'm gonna do that. So, but I don't think there should really be a problem there. Yeah, just know that there's a lot of exciting new things on the way. Thanks for everyone for all the support along the way with this channel, all of your guys' kind comments and everything, and to everyone new, welcome to the channel. Be sure to go check out some of the older videos on this channel, some of our older cycling vlogs together. Anyway, that's gonna be it for today. I'm gonna get this video out as soon as I can to you guys. If you follow me on Strava, you'll notice that my ride time has dramatically increased, so my training time, my commute time, and my work time is all increasing, which is just decreasing my time to edit videos. But I'm gonna get this out to you guys, and again, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time here on Tuo Cruise.